Craft Alcoholic Beverage Industry, Overview and Regulation. Updated January 7, 2021. American production of craft alcoholic beverages, whether beer, wine, liqueurs, distilled spirits, cider, perry, mead, or fermented drinks, has increased in recent years in response to rising demand. In 2019, there were an estimated 20,563 businesses producing craft beverages in the United States, with sales exceeding $36 billion annually. Table 1. The 116th Congress passed the Taxpayer Certainty and Disaster Tax Relief Act of 2020, Division E of the Consolidated Appropriations Act, 2021, PL 116-260, which made permanent those temporary reductions in federal excise taxes on alcoholic beverages. Table 2. Aside from tax relief, the U.S. beverage industries receive indirect federal support through agricultural research and farm support programs that are periodically updated by omnibus farm bill legislation. Definitions of craft beverages. There is no statutory or universally agreed upon definition of what constitutes craft production in the U.S. beverage industry. The concept of what is considered craft is often controversial. In general, the craft beverage industry is characterized by small-scale production, usually by independent or startup companies, and by localized production and distribution, including direct-to-consumer sales. Often the term artisan is used to indicate small batch production or the use of non-traditional ingredients, for example, alternate grains, herbs, and botanicals in production. Some definitions also focus on the degree of innovation, on-site venues, and community involvement. Spirits. The American Craft Spirits Association (ACSA) defines small-scale distilled spirit plant as producing less than 750,000 proof gallons, or about 394,314 cases, 12,750 milliliter bottles of 80 proof spirits case annually. Based on this definition, ACSA reports there were 2,046 craft distillers in the United States in 2019. Retail sales of U.S. craft spirits totaled $4.8 billion, or about 6% of the total annual sales. However, definitions of what constitutes a craft distillery differ. For example, the American Distilling Institute defines craft distillery as producing up to 100,000 proof gallons, about 52,575 cases. At that limit, craft distillers would comprise a smaller share of the market. Separate data are not available for craft liqueurs. Beer. The Brewers Association defines craft brewer as producing annually fewer than 6,031,000 beer barrels, about 83 million cases, 2,412-ounce cans case. In 2019, there were 8,386 craft breweries in the United States with retail sales of $29 billion, about 25% of the U.S. beer market, according to the Brewers Association. By volume, craft beer accounted for about 14% of the total U.S. beer market, highlighting the relatively higher market value of craft beer. Table 1. U.S. Craft Alcoholic Beverage Market, 2019. Wine. Small-scale wineries span a more diverse range of business sizes and product categories. Wines and Vines, an industry marketing company, defines a small vintner as one that produces 5,000 to 49,999 cases of wine annually. A very small vintner is defined as one that produces 2,378 to 4,999 cases, and a limited production vintner produces fewer than 1,000 cases. Wines and Vines reports there were 10,131 wineries in the United States producing up to 49,999 cases of wine in 2019. Direct-to-consumer shipments from these wineries were valued at $2 billion. Total retail sales data for this market segment are not readily available, likely understating total retail sales for smaller-sized wineries. Wine industry statistics include not only grape and other fruit or rice wines but also other types of agricultural wines, such as cider and perry, made with apples and pears, respectively, and mead, considered a honey wine. Depending on how it is produced and its alcohol content, some cider, perry, and mead may be considered to be more similar to beer. Separate industry statistics for cider, perry, and mead production are not readily available, but many of these producers are likely smaller-sized operations. It is not clear, however, whether reported wine or beer sales include ciders, perry, and mead. Separate data are also not available for other types of fermented drinks, such as kombucha. Regulatory oversight. The Alcohol and Tobacco Tax and Trade Bureau (TTB), within the U.S. Department of Treasury, is the primary federal regulatory agency responsible for licensing, advertising, labeling, tax, and formulation of alcoholic beverages at distilleries, breweries, and wineries. TTB establishes standards and guidance on how these beverages may be produced, labeled, and sold in the marketplace. TTB's principal authority is through the Federal Alcohol Administration Act, FAA, 27 U.S.C. Sections 201 to 219A. TTB regulations specify certain standards of identity for the several classes and types of distilled spirits 27 CFR Parts 5.22, 5.27, and 5.35 beer and malted beverages 27 CFR Part 25, and grape and other agricultural wines, including cider and mead 27 CFR Part 24. Table 2. Selected excise tax rates on beer, wine, and distilled spirits permanent law. Notes: the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, PL 115-97, temporarily reduced many alcohol excise tax rates for CY 2018-CY 2019. Those temporary changes were made permanent by PL 116-260. The wine rates are effective rates after wine gallon credits are applied. For a full schedule of tax rates, see TTB's website, above. TTB standards of identity establish a common name and set the content for a product, defining its composition and prescribing both mandatory and optional ingredients. If the appropriate content or labeling requirements are not met, the product is considered misbranded and in violation of U.S. laws. TTB also oversees designations and reviews petitions to establish new or expand existing American viticultural areas in the United States, identifying and delimiting particular grape-growing regions based on certain distinguishing features. In some cases, the Food and Drug Administration (FDA) is responsible for the regulation and labeling of some low-alcohol wine and beer that fall outside TTB's jurisdiction. Specifically, wines containing less than 7% alcohol by volume, ABV, are not defined by FAA. This may include wine coolers and ciders and wine made from non-grapefruits or from other agricultural products such as sake. Some beers also do not meet FAA's definition for malt beverages. Beer made from a malted barley substitute, such as corn, rice, or wheat, or made without hops are also not defined by FAA. These wine and beer products, however, may be subject to food labeling and packaging regulations under the Federal Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act, 21 U.S.C. Sections 341 et seq. The Fair Labeling and Packaging Act, 15 U.S.C. Section 1454, and other FDA implementing regulations. FDA labeling requirements cover ingredient and nutrition facts, allergen declarations, standards of identity, and other product identification information. FDA is also responsible for food facility registration and safety inspections. Excise taxation. TTB also collects and enforces taxes and fees on the production and sale of alcoholic beverages 26 U.S.C. Subtitle E. Excise taxes are levied at the manufacturer and importer level based on the per unit production or importation of alcoholic beverages, that is, distilled spirits, wine, beer, for sale in the U.S. market. Although private production of beer and wine is allowed for at-home consumption without paying taxes, distilled spirits may not be produced for beverage purposes without paying taxes and without prior approval to operate a still. Violations can result in criminal penalties 26 U.S.C. Sections 5601, 5602. The Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, PL 115-97, temporarily reduced many alcohol excise tax rates for CY 2018-CY 2019. PL 116-260 made those temporary changes in the federal excise tax treatment on alcoholic beverages permanent. As shown in Table 2, many craft producers are subject to lower excise tax rates than larger producers. Furthermore, credits against excise tax may be claimed by small wine or cider producers. Role of other federal agencies. Other federal agencies also play a role in the U.S. beverage industry as part of broader U.S. farm support programs. As such, the industry receives support through a range of research and farm programs that are periodically updated by omnibus farm bill legislation and administered by the U.S. Department of Agriculture (USDA). Products used in the production of wine, mead, cider, and beer, such as fruit, honey, and hops, are considered specialty crops and receive support from USDA programs that provide market development, research, and export and product promotion for specialty crops. Processed products, such as wine, are also considered specialty crops if they contain more than 50% of the specialty crop by weight, exclusive of added water. For a list of programs, see CRS in Focus IF 11317, 2018 Farm Bill Primer, Specialty Crops and Organic Agriculture. The production of grains used to produce beer and distilled spirits, including corn, wheat, rye, and barley, is also broadly supported through various USDA farm programs. For more information, see CRS in Focus IF 11164, 2018 Farm Bill Primer, Title I Commodity Programs. Renee Johnson, Specialist in Agricultural Policy. Sean Lowry, Analyst in Public Finance.